Right. So, as I say, my name is Ross Barry, Managing Director of ANDOR Cards. And obviously, there's a bit of a story and a history of why we're here that I think is quite important for you to understand why we're at this point with this product that we've got. As I say, I have technical problems going on here. Can't even flick the screens. Seconds. Right, hang on. Ah, there we go. Right, okay. So essentially, who are we? Right, as I said, I'm Ross Barry, Managing Director. Now, Andor Cabs are part of a group of companies that has developed over the past 20, 25 years. I'm actually an accountant trade, to which about 15 years ago we received a phone call from one local authority asking, can you do payroll for people with disabilities, to which I had a think, shook my head to the side, went, yes, we can, because as we all know, payroll is payroll, no matter what way you do this. The difference comes with the delivery of service to the vulnerable people that we act upon. We can't treat these direct payment recipients, people in need of care, the same way that we treat and speak to businesses. So we've had to adapt the business that we do and address it this way. As I say, we started off with one client about 15 years ago. We now provide service, Barry Bookkeeping Payroll Solutions, I should say, provide service to around 35 local authorities, and we have around 7,500 to 8,000 individual service users that we provide a payroll delivery service to on a 4-weekly basis. Barry Bookkeeping is also developed from the payroll only to now we're providing employment support, which is obviously, as you know, which is assisting service users with the full journey of becoming an employer should they choose to take that service. So that's the history of me. Why are we here? Okay, we are here because we have seen the transition of the way direct payment budgets are distributed. The local authorities changed from essentially a wedge of cash, go and spend it, really not auditable at all, to open up your own bank account in your name so that we can put the direct payment funds into. You can then spend that, but you only use that in relation to that account in relation to your direct payment. Fine in principle until service user dies or the service user goes into long-term residential care and they forget about this account, that there's a pot of money in that account, that the local authority then need to go through probate to get the money back. That 9 times out of 10, it would cost more for the probate than what was in the bank account. So essentially the local authority are making a loss on that as well. To the transition of prepaid cards. Now, obviously, 6, 7, 8 years ago was the first implementation through PFS to implement prepaid cards as a mechanism for local authorities depositing money and service users spending money, giving it a more transparent platform to check on. In principle, it's fine, but over the last 7 or 8 years, we have seen that essentially it's just been a prepaid card platform, right? Nothing else. Put the money on, spend it. And as I go through this, I'll explain the parts that we've built in. So over the past, as I say, over the years, I've listened to local authorities, service user providers, and seen where all these issues have stick up, where there are issues. Client contributions being one of them, surplus funds sitting on cards being another one, difficult to use for the service user being another one, providers submitting invoices, not getting paid, having to chase. So all of this has an effect on everything. Providers need to cash flow in order to keep providing the service that they're doing. Local authorities need to have transparency and proper reporting tools built into the platform so that they can see what each service user is doing. And the service user, in my opinion, and again, I've spoken to Chris and other few associates as well, simplicity of use. That's the big thing. Simplicity of use on the platform has to be one of the forefronts. So I've taken all these difficulties, we call them, and built this platform with a prepaid card mechanism built in, so that this is actually built for purpose, as opposed to the platforms that are currently available to local authorities that are no more than prepaid card platforms. Yeah. So as I say, I'll explain what we do as we go further through. And again, as I say, if anybody's got any questions, please just pop them into the chat and we'll pick up with them once I've finished. So, what have we got? What have we done? Right, there's always, I need to put something in here before I carry on with this state. Nobody likes change, especially local authorities, due to the amount of work and the amount of heartache and headache that moving from one system to another is going to cause. Okay, we know that there's a bit of headache in this, so we have had to think about how we transition this to cause as little pain as possible for everybody. And I think we've come up with a mechanism here that will work. Okay, now, because the prepaid card platform is FCA regulated, we have to do KYC checks. Okay, now, when we first started building this 6, 8, 9 months ago, we were told in order to be compliant, you need to do an individual KYC check on each customer, which involves photographic ID and address, some proof of address, whether it be a gas bill, electricity bill, council tax bill, something like that. Now, we know that if we were to ask, pick a council, any council, Fife Council, to go out and say, right, you've got 2,500 service users that you need to transfer on to us. You need to do your KYC check and you need to provide this for everyone in order to open up a card. Local authorities would go, nah, far too much work. So what we've actually done, we have managed to get another mechanism that actually means that the KYC check is essentially done by the local authority. All the ANDOR cards doing is a KYB, know your business, which is verifying that the council is the council. You've already done the checks on the clients, so then it's simple enough to add them to the platform, and it all meets FCA regulatory requirements. The reason I say this is the reason that EML, PFS, are in the difficulty that they're in, because they didn't adhere to the strict rules of the FCA, and this is why they've been putting local authorities at risk, service users at risk, providers at risk, and obviously themselves at risk, and that's why they're now in voluntary liquidation. So again, this is all about minimising risk for everybody, but also providing the best level of platform and service that we can. So what we've also done, once we get over the pain of the KYC check, which isn't much of a pain, inconvenience I would say, we've also going to build in a sign-up pack that's built in within the platform. Now that means, and again, through my experience of working with local authorities, I know that some of the administration parts can be a bit difficult, that many bits of paper and many rooms and many drawers in these rooms that we need to get people signed up. So we are building in, specific for each local authority, their requirements, a sign-up pack that can either be printed off paper and submitted, or digitally online be submitted through, so that everything's all getting matched up. The accounts and the distribution of cards are also being set up quicker. Normally, and currently, from what we're hearing, for a card to set up an account can be set up within a day or two. No problem with that. It's the distribution of the card that currently takes between 10 and 30 working days, 2 to 6 weeks, for physical prepaid cards to be distributed to the service user in order for them to start using the budget that is on the card. we can have these open within 2 to 3 days that the accounts can be getting used due to the fact that we're also using virtual cards. Okay, so the minute that a client is set up, a virtual card will be issued. That money can be loaded onto that card, and through the platform, the service user can start paying for their care and other incidentals that come along with that. So we're speeding up the process rather than putting stumbling blocks in the way. Something just to slow this down. Again, the option of virtual plastic cards that we've got, it doesn't have to be one or other, it can be both. That's why we've got the name ANDOR, because it is still all about choice. So they can have a virtual card and/or a plastic card. So, and as well, there's other things as well that we're still focusing on the choice element here. We're still focusing on the choice element, that we're not saying to local authorities and we're not saying to service users, you have to use this platform. We're putting in variation in order to give them choice, independence, and allowing them to manage their budget the way they want to, just through better mechanisms and tools. The good thing about this as well, this platform, is the fact that if you go with the virtual cards, we're doing a bit for the planet, because there is no physical making of the cards. So if there's no physical making of the cards, we're not using plastic. There's no distribution of these cards required, because you've got the virtual card that instantly load up on your devices that you've got. So again, green factor, saving the world kind of thing. And again, we've got, as I mentioned earlier, we've got the element of choice for service users and which way they want to use this and which way the platform is set up, to which I will get to later on as we go. Now, as I mentioned earlier, KYC, big thing, compliance, regulation, transparency. As I mentioned, this is why EML have fallen at this point. PFS, EML, all pay, they are slightly better, but there's a lot of things. As we went on this journey and building this platform over the past 9 months to a year that we've been building on this, obviously we've been doing our market research and finding stuff, and there's a lot of things. Even now, if I had here, it would curl some of the things that still elements of risk that local authorities, service users, and providers are being put at, which I'll get to at the bottom of this slide. So, as I mentioned earlier, it's regulated by the FCA, so there is strict compliance and regulation that we need to stick to. KYC, as I mentioned as well, know your customer. Local authority do that because you've already done the check. A KYB, where the local authority, again, we need to verify that it's a ridiculous thing that we need to do for the FCA to say that Devon County Council are Devon County Council. You know, we have to do a check, one bit of paper, but when it's done, it's done. And again, all this is to protect against money laundering that we need to do it, because again, it wouldn't be good if the council was seen to be giving money to a service user that they hadn't done the proper background checks on, and this money is getting used for terrorism or drugs or whatever kind of thing. So it is important that through the platform we protect everybody. And again, local authorities currently are at risk due to poor terms and conditions from providers. Now, again, as within our research that we've done, we pulled around 15 agreements that local authorities provide to service users. Out of these 15, there was 12 different variations on this. And this all goes back to the Care Act and the way it's written, especially around the finance and the client contributions. And if you go, I think it's section 18, and if you go and read that in the Care Act, you can read it today and go and have a bacon roll and a cup of tea for your dinner. Like, oh yeah, that's in favour of the council. You read it tomorrow morning, and you can go, oh, actually, that's in favour of the service user. It's vague. It is vague. It is very open to interpretation, and it isn't tight enough. And again, reading through the terms and conditions that we've received from local authorities, we've had all the money belongs to the service user, all the money belongs to the local authority, the client contribution belongs to the service user, the budget belongs to, I mean, so many variations, and I think this is where there is no standardisation across the United Kingdom in these terms and conditions. What we are hoping to do is bring in a bit of security for the local authority to ensure that they are not being put at risk. And there's one local authority that we work with that I think they have got the right model and the right idea and the right statement, which is all the funds within the budget belong to the local authority until they are spent, and then they belong to the provider. That way, there's no vagueness in that. Yeah, the money is given, yes, to the service user to enable them a better quality of life, but it still belongs to the council, so that if that contract ends, the money gets going back. And that's what agreements, in my opinion, I'm not sure about Chris's thoughts on this, we'll maybe pick up later, is that there needs to be protection to local authorities, because if local authorities fall through somebody, and I'm going to revert back to the programme that was on at the beginning of the year, Mr. Bates against the post office. So all it takes is one person to question the legality of the terms and conditions that they're signing, and the whole house of cards could fall if they get a solicitor or somebody that's willing to jump on this to say, oh, all that money belongs to the service user. So there's that bit of protection that we're looking at. So again, as I say here, there's vague agreements that are very open to interpretation. Yeah, that I believe these need to be tightened up. But again, this is a one-on-one conversation with each local authority, because they will make their own choice and decision. Out-of-date details provided to local authorities by current card providers. That I've got an email from one that provided details of the bank that they were to pay, that we were to transfer funds to. Long story, which I won't go into because we don't have time. But essentially, this bank as well has went into voluntary liquidation. Stopped trading 3 years ago, but this card provider is saying put money into this account. They're both late with their annual compliance. These need to be put in on time in order to keep them regulated with the FCA properly. And they also need to keep the local authorities up to date with the latest amendments in the standards and governance that's required as an FCA product. So we're taking all these things, we're tightening it up, we're protecting the councils, service users, providers, and ourselves. Yeah, anybody that's involved is getting this protection, that there will be no element of danger of risk of, as I say, Mr. Bates against the post office as a scenario. So again, obviously, everything needs to be top notch at what we're doing. So all the data that we host is held within UK. The card provider, Accomplish, they keep all their card data within a secure warehouse on their server system somewhere in London that can't be in. Our stuff is stored solely, ANDOR cards, on our server within our server room. So this is cloud-based. This isn't on stored in a different country or anything like that. It's all in the UK. Again, due to this, we need to put multiple security layers for both APIs to ensure that everything is as tight as it can be. Car system's got obviously the anti-fraud system built in, with new rules and topologies added based on the latest information. So this is a constantly evolving security system which is giving more protection on the card and the way the money's being spent. And again, also the PCI DSS level 1, which is the top level for card providers in order to ensure that that the protection is what it should be. So again, what we've got, and again, I'll run through this. This is actually probably a 2-hour presentation just to show you the platform. I'll scoot through this, and what I will say is that if anybody is interested in wanting a more in-depth explanation and showing off the platform, please reach out to me and we can book this in and we can take you on and have a good chat about the platform and actually show you how it works. I've tried to condense this into 2 or 3 slides here. So please go with me. So what we've got essentially is an integrated platform where we have 4 levels of access here. Okay, we have local authority access, which is like the top of the 3. Local authority will see every client and every detail of the platform, and this goes to finance, head of direct payments. You know, the top tier of the local authority. You then come down a level, which is social worker ILA access, which will be their clients only that they deal with. So they won't see everybody, they will see only what's associated to them. You've then got the service user access, which is a platform that's been built to essentially one page where everything is all there. So the service user doesn't have to be clicking through page. Go on one page, you can see everything that they've got, and I'll explain what it does as we go. And again, we've also built in a mechanism for providers, providers being care agencies, for example, who we all know the difficulties that some providers have by issuing an invoice through post or email that either the email gets deleted or the postman doesn't come. 3 weeks later, they're still waiting for payment. So they have to go through and chase it up again. It could be looking at between 1 week to 6, 7, 8 weeks for payment for services provided due to the loss of communication. So we've built in a mechanism that the invoices can be added and associated to the client by the push of a button. It comes into Mrs. Smith's account. We've also built in a mechanism that this will check the invoice to ensure it's within the budget requirements and there is no anomalies on it. And if there is, it gets pulled to the side to an alert screen that the local authority can then do their check and then verify that this can automatically be paid from the card to the provider within a window of 2, 3, 4, 5 days. Again, whatever each local authority decides, and it's all keeping it within budget. So, or it can still be added to the platform, and Mrs. Smith can manually pay this if she wants. So we've built in a bit of tech, a bit of AI in order to modernise platforms that we've got and to make it fit for purpose. So again, what we've got, as I mentioned back at the start, the 2 big main things are client contributions and surplus funds sitting on cards. Now, and all that I can see is Chris's face here on the bottom right hand side of my screen, but I'm going to assume that the rest of you are all going to be nodding your head with this next statement. We all know the difficulties with client contributions and trying to get money out of, trying to get the contribution out of quite a lot of these clients. Yeah, that they'll come and be assessed and say, right, your client contribution is £30 a week that you have to pay. A piece of paper or a letter or something will be given to them saying, there's the bank account, can you set this up? Yeah, fine, no problem. It gets forgotten about and it isn't paid. Through our historic relationships with people and understanding stuff, you know that unless this is kept on top of, quite a big debt can grow. For example, Central London, we had one client that didn't pay a client contribution for 4 years. The debt was something like £7,500 that they then got this letter going, there's £7,500 that you're a debt that you're due to pay the council. And Mrs. Smith will stand there and go, I don't have £7,500. Do you want me to pay it back at £1 a week for the next 7,500 weeks? And eventually, 9 times out of 10, the council will just write this off as, okay, we'll pay it, we'll reassess, and we'll start again. I've seen this so often. You've also got the other end of the spectrum, which is client contributions. Now, because we know local authorities are short in monitoring staff, audit staff, how can 3 or 4 people audit regularly 2,500, 3,000 service users to make sure that 1, they're paying their client contributions, and 2, money's being spent on the right kind of care. It isn't being misspent. So we had another client in London that for about 4 years, money was consistently just being added to the card. She never used the direct payment budget. She didn't spend anything at all. She didn't understand it. She signed up for it. She didn't understand it. 3.5 years later, there was £240,000 of unspent money sitting on that card. So what we've done, we've built in alert mechanisms that will flag up the client contribution not being paid, AI techie stuff. Again, if you want a more in-depth presentation with this, I'll explain how this works. Not today, but essentially an alert system that after 3 alerts, we've got an automatic communication system that will alert Mrs. Smith by text, email, or standard post, or any combination saying you are due this. This needs to be addressed before this debt gets big. We've also built in at the surplus fund end that over again, parameters set by each local authority, but a 6, 8, 10 week, a 10 week budget surplus is allowed. Anything over that automatically gets called back into council coffers unless there's a special thing being saved for later down the line. That again, it's a checkbox by the local authority. Yes, no. Do we call back? Do we not? So again, what we're doing is with the platform, we're building in a bit of automation that does the stuff that people don't have time to do at the minute or can't do it efficiently. Help to catch debt early, helping to pull back money back into the council coffers so that they have this. They're not chasing this. Yeah, they're not chasing this money. So again, as I mentioned, we've got the alert system, the 4-tier hierarchy access that we've got, automated communications. Again, service user can access this on multiple devices. So it isn't just a laptop. They need to be able to get this on their phone, on their iPads, whatever. And again, I've made it, if I can use it, it's simple. And simple works no matter where you go. And especially when you look at perhaps the vulnerability of a lot of these people that, and a lot of them are not tech savvy, if you know what I mean, that the easier it is, the more beneficial it is as well. Another thing that we're offering as well, which other providers don't, I believe, are 3 sessions a year online for any local authority worker that is using the platform. There is no point in us saying, there is our platform, yeah, on you go, do what you want with it. And by the way, over the year, we're going to be chucking all these changes in as well. You just navigate your way around there, yeah, because that won't work. So what we're doing is we're also offering 3 training sessions for anybody using it. Obviously, if it's the top of the hierarchy, they'll get a more intense training because they've got more to deal with, or the more reduced training for the social worker or the ILA to do, so that they're being kept up with changes and the platform isn't being disrupted some inadverse way that we've got. Yeah. So as I mentioned, we've got a communication system in that, again, what this allows is a 2-way communication between service user and local authority, whether it be an individual or whether it be local authority as a whole. Again, automated, but templates can be added and each local authority can add their own letterhead so that this is, I'm going to say, stationarised for your local authority so that it's official that comes out. And again, there's a mechanism that we have to do this, but it's all part of the sign up and what we do. And again, we're also keeping within, for visibility, we're keeping within the chat the date and the time, who sent them and what the conversation was. So we don't have, if there was 3 or 4 people involved in the local authority with a conversation, you don't have to be jumping into 3 or 4 email boxes. You've got one email box within the client's file that you can read the conversation, who said what and when was said. Again, making it a bit easier to streamline the whole process, save the local authority time, saving service user time probably as well, and hopefully reducing any issues to a much shorter resolution time as well. We have geospatial data. Does anybody know? It's a question, and normally the heads go side to side with this. And again, all I can see is Chris. I'm expecting Chris to know what geospatial is. Thumbs up, Chris, or thumbs down? Up, yeah, you know what it is. Yeah. So briefly to show you, If I was to show you this here, this slide, what you'll see will be the graph, the block graph charts. I think that's the name. Excel spreadsheet or a map. Yeah, a map with hotspots on it. All of this is the same information, but only presented in a different way. Now, geospatial data, we've got an API that's built in with Esri being the company that provide it. That essentially it's all postcode driven. But any data point within the platform that we've got becomes a data point that the local authority can pull a report out around this. So that means if there, for example, if we have a look at the map here, I know it's the whole of the UK, all the black dots mean it's more intense. So, for example, if the black dots around the London area here, I know it's London, Norfolk, and probably Lincoln, and all the other home counties, but all these black dots represent areas where client contributions aren't being paid. So rather than looking at a spreadsheet and going, oh, Mrs. Smith, or Mr. Jones, or Mr. Watson, they aren't paying, you can look down and you can see that this postcode area, there might be a reason for it. Is it because, and again, I'm just picking suggestions here, is it because it's not an affluent place? Is it because it's a cultural thing? Is it because it's not being explained properly? You know, stuff that you can go and you can deal with and help the current day's workings of the platform and the direct payments. It makes management easier. You could also put in, for example, there's been an increase in an area of dementia. You know, that this can help for future planning. Like, dementia's grown, we need to put more resources in, whether it's another couple of outreach groups that come in to help support this growing mechanism that we've got. But also commissioners can take this, look back, make their plans, see and start planning for the future, for future contracts as well. It's a good tool. And again, that's just the brief synopsis of it. Again, I can speak about 20 minutes about this, but realise that we're kind of time restricted here. So, again, the benefits, it's in a map. To me, looking at that is much easier than looking at a spreadsheet, that you can understand the data that you've got and focus on resolving the data a bit better. And again, everything else that I've kind of said. Again, the benefits for the local authority is, again, we're allowed an auto-spend analysis which illustrates how the direct payment is being spent. It allows knowledge to support decisions for funding, and it also makes sure that the client is meeting their needs. The budget is being spent in order to meet their needs. Again, we're also building in an efficient close-down process, which again is another 15 minutes that I'll speak to you about later on if anybody wants to jump on a private call with. But an efficient close-down process where anybody with an association with Mrs. Smith will get an email saying we've ended service now, but we've all got our bits to do, rather than just local authority closing it down. For example, Barry Bookkeeping being a payroll provider, there might be a redundancy. There might be outstanding holiday pay. There might be an outstanding tax bill to pay. You close the account, we can't pay that. That can't be paid. You have to open up the account. It just causes undue work. Yeah, this close down process, everybody does their thing. It's a checkbox. Once it all turns green, Mrs. Smith is efficiently closed down. Yeah, and again, as I mentioned, the facility to audit spend analysis automatically and the longer term saving opportunities. As I've mentioned about the client contributions and the surplus funds, right away, there's not a saving, but it's a clawback of money that can be utilised for other avenues within the care and the health and social care sector. So again, we're currently here, phase one. We have a live platform that is that can be implemented with local authorities now. But again, we're not finished. Anybody that says, "Oh, we've got a platform and it's finished," they're lying. They're lying. If you build a platform and say it's done, you might as well walk away. You have to keep developing and you have to keep improving what we are providing. Even although what I've said is phase one, there's so much more that we want to add into this. And again, just as ideas, I mean, we're not sure when. We're also, through the communication, looking to build in a a direct phone facility, like a video calling implement that calls can be recorded and stored within the chat mechanism that we had, you know, the file that you can actually go back and listen to what was said rather than I thought you said this was that wasn't what you said. You know, you're taking that element of, shall we say, argument out of this. We're also looking to put into a peer register, and again, I think local authorities are missing a line of data here that they already have. It's just how they implement it. Now, we all know that local authorities want a peer register because there's a massive, massive gap in the market and a massive shortage of PAs. Something like, I think it was 180,000 unfilled vacancies, ranging from our 2-hour contracts to the high end stuff. Local authorities should have all the details, or within the platform anyway, we've got all the details of all the PAs that we're also offering them. Do they want to be on a PA register? You've got that source of data. We don't have to go out looking for it. Excuse me, it's a yes or a no checkbox, and they get added to a PA register for that area. And if Mrs. Smith is looking for a PA, it doesn't have to go through the 6 to 8 week protracted time that it takes to advertise a job, sift CVs, you know, all that kind of thing before you do the interview and then apply. If somebody's there, this could be a job could be filled within a week or two, maximum. But again, I'll explain this more if you want a more deeper chat about it as well. We're also looking to put in a job advertising market, so we're also marrying up the service users with vacancies that they can marry up with the PA register. So again, taking out this protracted job advertising bit, the internal bit. We are obviously providing management support for appointeeship clients with a slightly different card mechanism, but it's 2 cards that we've got. One, the main card, the second card attached to the main card, but is a sub card that we can put the appointees' funds on, so we're not risking the full package. It's like a pocket money card, basically. Again, we're speaking with a prepaid card provider around a biometric system support service users with the early onset dementia. And this is basically a fingerprint card. Obviously not for the later end of dementia, but then still have capacity of a sort, but are slightly forgetful that they maybe forget. I mean, they've got their finger, these cards can be used, so it's still giving them independence and autonomy out there in the street, and they can live their life as full as they can. And again, what we're also looking to offer is a wide list of service providers vetted in a higher quality for the local council area, which will provide easier access to providers and service users, and also better opportunities for local providers as well. So we're thinking about keeping it local here as well to boost the local economy through this rather than getting somebody from another borough coming in and doing it. So, you know, it's all these things that we're looking at to develop it. And again, later on, what we're looking to do is looking to integrate with Mosaic aggressive contract as well. We can get an API that can just pull all this information through rather than having to go through exporting spreadsheets, then importing spreadsheets. If we can get an API that we can tie into these systems, it's going to make everybody's life so much easier. Again, we're looking at an integrated payroll and time attendance function. And again, in order to keep this platform developing and being the best it can be, we need to listen to people like yourself. We need to listen to service users. We need to listen to providers. We need to listen to Chris now and again, just see what Chris is coming out with. And we need to start building on what is required rather than saying this is what we think. Yeah, let's take on board what is needed, build it into the platform so that it's there and it is.